Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon what time of day you are tuning in, of course. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 93. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez. And I've taken a couple of weeks off, so I'm trying to get my rhythm back as a host here and make sure everything flows nicely. So the premise of Run It Back, of course, remains the same, where we take teams, that have played previously, and we run it back, so to speak, where we talk about the intricacies of game planning, in-game adjustments, what goes in a scouting report, what is important adjustment wise, fairly niche, of course, but I think it's useful for coaches to see what other coaches are doing. And I've loved the journey so far. This week, of course, is no different. We're looking at a game that took place February 19th, 2022. So we're recording in April. We're just a couple months ago that we're looking at. This is Brunswick Community College versus Caldwell Community College. And we're very fortunate, as we have been in prior weeks, to have a coach from the game joining us, Kenneth Tiger Aldrich, who I know as Tiger, of course. We're just joking around a little bit about that, who has become a good friend, I dare to say, over the past couple of years through many Zooms, somebody that I have listened to, learn from. I'm really excited to have here. Tiger, if you give me a second, let me do my best to try and give you a warm welcome to the show here. Everything I found online here. It looks like 22 years as a coach at Brunswick College, both as an assistant and of course now as an associate head coach. Prior to that, you spent a couple of years at Howard High School and Cape Fear Academy. Spent 3 years as the head coach of Sand Hills AAU team, where you did win a state championship. My hat goes off to you, sir. And then also were part of the Wilmington Waves and Flight 22 travel organizations. And prior to that, as a player, you played at Jacksonville and at UNC Wilmington. So those were new to me. I didn't know those two. That was interesting to find out. But I just want to take a second and really say thank you for joining. I'm both excited and really just like grateful to have you here on the show. Welcome to Run It Back.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me, man. It's a honor to get on here and talk a little basketball and hoops with you. I appreciate the offer and appreciate you having me on. So.
That's my pleasure. Absolutely. So we'll start here. Let's give a little bit of background about Brunswick, like the section and the league that you play in. For anybody who's not familiar with junior college basketball, give us a little bit of a background. Maybe talk a little bit about where in the season you are when this game is taking place. Anything that's detailed that the common person might not know.
Yeah. Brunswick Community College, we compete in the NJCA. We're in Region 10. Region 10 covers South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and it's supposed to be Southern Maryland a little bit, but those teams kind of petition and participate in a different region. But it's mostly South Carolina, North Carolina, and Southern Virginia. At this time, this is our second time playing Caldwell. We lost to them at their place. Pretty bad. They beat us pretty good at their place. We are two teams that are at the top of the conference every year. And we know, just like they know, if they're going to win, we got to go through Caldwell. If they got to win, they got to go through Brunswick. Right. So it's a very competitive game. Two teams at the top of the list preparing for the tournament. Region 10 is one of those teams where it's definitely a one bid league. I mean, very, very few teams leagues going to get two bids to the NJCA national tournament. So we got to win the tournament. Everything leads up to those 3 days of the tournament. Right. And so this is jockeying for position because the number one seed gets to bye in the tournament. So instead of winning 3 games, you only got to win 2. So that's why this game is very important. It's a return visit, trying to even the score with them based on the tiebreaker and all that stuff and how you finish in the league. So very, very important game at this stage of the season for us.
Love it. So I got you coming off of a game with Gaston 3 days before. And as you mentioned, you did play them earlier in the season in January. When do you start this scout and sort of, guide us through what your process is of what goes in, what's important, how you share it, et cetera?
The scout for Caldwell starts the day after the Gaston game or leading up to it. Some days, a lot of times we play Saturday, Sunday, just for travel purposes and budget wise, it just makes sense for us on the JUCO level.
Right.
So we may talk about those guys during the week. Our scout is basically film from when we did play them, or we may use Synergy to check out some games they played. But typically, the teams in our league, they're creatures of habit. They do the same thing every year, and it makes it a little easier to be prepared for them. But then it goes more to personnel. Then it's all about personnel. Who's taking what shots, what kids to be aware of, how these kids are getting their shots, because their system is the same every year. And we know that, and they know the same thing about us. So, so our scout normally is very personnel heavy, and understanding those guys. So
love it. Excuse me. So is it fair to say that there's not tremendous turnover of the coaches in your league? I mean, obviously you've got 22 years of tenure. Your head coach has been there pretty much that whole time too. And
it is interesting because, say, for instance, Gaston, this is Gaston's first year participating. They have Dickie Nutt, who was at Cleveland State, left there to take the head job there. So
right.
he was new to the league. So preparing for him was a little different. Caldwell, Cape Fear, us, Brunswick, same coaches. USC Salkehatchie had a coaching change just a few games into the season. But normally those guys are there for a few years and we get a lot of film on them. We keep a lot of film from past years, and we just go back to that. We kind of go back. When we're doing our scout, we're preparing. We go back and watch old film, watch games from that year. Most guys don't change that much.
So when you say that you're more personnel based, I'm assuming that your scout, whether it's paper, video, or a combination, is a couple clips or a descriptive bit on each player. Sort of guide us through what you would look for. What goes into that?
It's a couple things. One, we look at who's shooting the ball well. Are they
Mhm.
scoring off kickouts? Are they scoring off drives? Are they scoring off post ups? Are they going to those guys? Are they also scoring in transition? Caldwell is one of those teams that heavy in transition. They love to run. They love to get out and run. Typically, the last two coaches have been there. They run the Carolina numbered break, where the wings run deep to the corner, 5 to the rim, 4 is trailing. They reverse the ball through the 4, and then there's a back screen from the wing, and then there's a cross screen of the bigs. That's typical Carolina break. That's Tar Heels and Tar Heel disciples have been running that for years. So
right.
So basically, we bought that Roy Williams transition video years ago to prepare for guys
Get
out
on top
area.
of
So
it.
yeah, so it's because we run a lot of it also, and so we'll just prepare for that. But finding out where certain guys score, how they like to get in there and do that is really important. And then one of our assistants, a guy named Jim Watson, who's a retired high school coach from Vermont, who probably coached somewhere between 30 and 40 years in Vermont. He is very OCD when it comes to scouting. So he loves to watch the other teams, watch their videos, makes very detailed scouts about what guys do, where they get shots, and what to look for. He brings that to me and Walter. We talk about how we're going to defend that guys, how we want to teach our guys to defend them,
Right.
and what we want to try to take away from them. But we rely a lot on Jim because he loves to be very, very detailed with the personnel. And then we just kind of look at the dribble drive action they do after they get out of the Carolina break. So then we try to take things away based on that.
Sounds like to me that all of your coaches are involved in each one of the scouts. It's not like one coach has one scout, one has another. Can you talk about what you'll actually give to the guys? You did mention certain coaches will bring things and you'll discuss and you'll then decide, okay, we're going to guard this way. Are the guys getting a paper copy? Are they getting some film for themselves? What does like that 3 days leading up to the game time look like? How are you implementing how you want to guard stuff?
Majority of the time it is film. It is film based. We're going to bring them into the locker room, bring them into the film room, watch film, talk about what we're seeing and how we're going to do certain things. In this case, we were lucky enough to have the previous game to look back on. So then we
Right.
were able to immediately address mistakes and make corrections and say, this is what you did. This is what we would like for you to do. This is what we think we should do. This is how you're going to do it. So we'll talk about that during the film session. Then once we get onto the court, we walk through it slow, then show it to them live. And then we have a scout team that would run those plays and show how we want to defend certain things. I can tell you with Caldwell, 1, 2, and 3 is close out, close out, close out. Because they want to shoot the 3. Yeah, they want to shoot the 3. They shot probably a total of 63 to 64 threes in the 2 games combined against us.
Oh, wow.
And so what we wanted them to do is take contested threes, box out, limit second shots, and just give them one shot at it. But they took, I think, over 63 3-pointers in those 2 games combined. So
that's crazy. The as you mentioned in your walkthrough, you are actually playing against their actions. Would you with your scout team be like this person is that person, so we want to treat closeout? Is there any sort of like reward system or whatever to running those particular players off, or like how are you really enforcing the closeouts when you're walking through everything?
Playing time.
Playing
either going to do it or
it's a key factor.
That's their reward. You're either going to do it or you're going to sit. So but the goal is to really teach it to them how to close out high hands, finishing your stance, be ready to take away the drive. One of the things we know about Caldwell is they like to drive and get paint touches, but not particularly to finish. They want to drive to the paint, kick it across the paint to the deep corner, or kick it up top to the high wing. So they usually plant their shooters in the opposite corner. Right. So when they drive across the lane, they want to kick to the shooters. And that's just a strong pattern that they do. They're very good at it. I mean, you can sit there and watch them in pregame, and that's what they're practicing. So we tell our guys, that's what main thing we prepare for is close out, high hands. You know, if you're helping, you got to recover. Or if we're a shooter, you know, we got to be in-game adjustments. Guy hit 1 or 2 or 3 shots. Now you're not helping off that guy. Now, when that guy, when that guy drives to the paint.
Question: Will you not help off of shooters?
Oh yeah, when that guy drives, instead of coming to the paint, you go to your man to deny, to take that away. And so that's one of the end games we'll make if a guy starts hitting shots. And usually that limit is 2. If he hits 2 or 3, we're making an adjustment to him at that point.
Love it. What about the pick and roll? How much pick and roll defense makes a scout, and how much do you vary that from team to team? Are you like, if there was a spectrum, we always do what we do and we do it well, or at the other end we change for every opponent based upon what they do? Where do you guys kind of fall on that?
The main variation in guarding a pick and roll is the switch. That's the main thing we do. What we teach, high hedge on the ball screen,
right?
And that guy get through, or we're going to switch it. We don't vary from that much often. So we really, really strong high heads, trying to stop the ball handler, make him take a retreat dribble, give our guy time to get over the screen. With Caldwell, you have to go over the screens. If you go under, those guys are going to stop and pull up. And so the goal is to push them off the ball screen, go over the top, make them take a retreat dribble, and then get back to your man. And then we'll backside help, because as you'll see in some of the clips, their big guy rolls really hard to the rim. And so we have to have backside help for the roll, knowing that you got to close out to shooters if they don't hit the roll guy.
Love it. So because you do a little bit of switching, would it be fair to say that all of your guys are expected to know all of the personnel on the other team, or do you like your top 7 maybe get a little bit more information than other guys, specific to the guys that they would be guarding?
They all get the same information. We expect them to know, again, like with Caldwell, 4 out of 5 guys on the court at all times. Actually, I take it back. 5 out of 5 guys on the court will shoot the 3. That's just how they play. So with them, everyone has to close out from the 1 through the 5. the big guy in the previous game I think he went 3 for 6 on three. So our big didn't do a good job of closing out. This game, our big did a much better job of limiting that guy. He went from 16 points in the first game to he didn't get double figures in the second game. And that was
Right.
mainly closing out, taking away his threes, and then protecting him on the rim roll. So, but yeah, all our guys are expected to do the same. Guard the way we talk about in practice, guard the way we practice it in practice. So that's our expectation.
What you mentioned, we got to close out. You mentioned they're great from behind the 3-point line. What did you kind of identify as your advantages? What, matchups did you want to go and attack, or what actions did you want to use? What did you guys figure was, your advantage going into this game?
Our advantage every game has been Josiah Shackelford. He's our All-American. He's preseason player of the year. He wound up being player of the year in our league. He's our advantage. The difference in the two games, we got very little perimeter scoring in the first game. Our guards we really need those guys to score. We wanted our point guard to get downhill. They don't have a rim protector, so we wanted him to attack the rim, either score or drop it off to Shaq if they did help. So that was our main goal, is try to get our guards more involved. Those guys had to be more productive. And of course, keep feeding Shaq. I mean, it's the reason why he's All-American. We got to get him more touches. We got to get him the ball.
Right.
We got to get him in easy scoring positions. So, and plus, he's a tremendous offensive rebounder. So we wanted him close to the basket. He's not one of those fives that's floating around the 3-point line. He's 6 feet and in.
So if that is the case from game 1 to game 2, or in between the last game and this game, you recognize that as something that you want to do game plan wise. Would it be as simple as having the conversation with your guards and that big, like, hey, we need more production from you? Or would you go to particular sets or, particular actions where it's like, hey, man, you were really successful with this, do this more, show it to them on film? How do you actually get the active change happening there?
We did do some changes with the offense as far as more ISO with the point guard, try to get some more 1-4 low movements. There's also some high ball screens with Shaq rolling to the basket. Our goal also was to create easy buckets, so we pressured them. At the beginning of the game, we went full court press, try to create some turnovers, try to get in transition. But one of the things was to attack them off the dribble and then get our point guard going downhill. Then our other two guards, or our three, is very good off the dribble. Not as great as catch and shoot guy, but very good at driving to the basket and offensive rebounding. So it was a lot of just talking to those guys, motivating those guys, do what you do, do your job.
Right.
Crash, if you're a shooter, you got to be able to catch and shoot, and you got to make shots. So that was kind of the preparation going in. So
let's move into game a little bit. So, I mean, you've done what you guys do scout wise. You get out there. What are you monitoring at first? How are you sort of associating, like, okay, our game plan is working or our game plan is not working? How long will you stick with it before you throw an audible? What are sort of like the key factors that you're looking for in that first little bit?
First of all is, are we creating turnovers? Are we able to force turnovers? Because we did start out with the pressure.
Right.
If they beat our pressure, are we giving up open threes on the other end?
Right.
If they get in a half court set, are we protecting the rim on the roll? And are we keeping them out the paint when they drive to stop the kick out for the three? So with those guys particularly, that's what we were trying to focus on. That's what we wanted to do. And of course, always, how many open threes are they getting? Are they hitting those threes? And are we contesting those threes? So that's kind of the focus of things that we're looking at and focusing on during that game versus that team.
Love it. Among all of those things, will certain coaches on your staff have the specific job of maybe tracking? Like, are you guys tracking anything on the bench? Or are you all just kind of watching, having discussions and seeing what each other are seeing?
It's interesting you asked that. So the two people that do the most tracking on our bench are our two older coaches. All right. So we have another guy who is also a retired high school coach from North Carolina.
Right.
He tracks shots, fouls, timeouts, and he tracks all that stuff. Then we have Jim, who don't sit on the bench. He sits in the stands and tracks basically everything. So these two gentlemen, both of these, like I said, both of these guys are retired educators, retired coaches, very detailed oriented. So they bring that information to us at half. How many free throws did we take? How many free throws did we make? How many threes did they take? How many twos did they take? What's the percentage? Who's making what? And then we evaluate that at halftime. But if it's something during the game, normally as Coach Shaw and myself, trying to pay attention to the flow, the runs, what's going on. Is this something we need to address in a timeout? And going from there. So
love it.
It's kind of interesting.
Walk us through a little bit of what a timeout or a halftime might look like. Like you've got the stats that you mentioned that you guys are tracking. How do you implement change? Are you guys yellers and screamers? Are you action based? What does it look like with Coach Tiger on the sidelines there?
It's unique because early in my career, I probably was a black version of Bobby Knight. So, but as I've gotten older and trying to keep my blood pressure under control, I'm more of a detail oriented. This is the behaviors you need to change. These are the actions that need to take place. Now we have a younger guy on the staff who has a ton of energy, and he's taken over my Bobby Knight role. So he's the guy that's going to really attack them from an energy point of view and where's your energy at, and coming out that way. Coach Watson and Coach Galloway, the two older retired gentlemen, they're always very calm, very under control. Here are the facts. Here's what we see. So if it's a 30-second timeout, I usually will talk to Walt right quick and say, hey, this is what we see. This is what's going on. This is what we need to change. And then he'll immediately talk to the guys. If it's a longer timeout, full timeout, or a immediate timeout, the coaches will huddle up, talk about what's going on. What do we need to change? How do we feel like we need to change that?
Right.
Some of the ways we make changes during the game, the two main things, obviously, is either substitution or defensive changes. So we make a decision. Are we going to make one of those two changes right then? So do we want to change the flow and the tempo? Let's change point guards. Do we want to change how they're coming up the court? Do we want to back out the press? Do we want to go to the press? Do we want to go to a zone? Do we want to go to a half court trap? Do we want to stay in it? Or do we want to go for one or two possessions and get out of it? So if we're going to change the game at that point, those are some of the decisions we make right then: personnel or defensive changes.
For anybody who doesn't know, Tiger is quite a tall gentleman. So I'm picturing you having a Bobby Knight moment and thinking that that's probably horrible for some of your shorter guards. Just like, man, this man's going to kill me.
I'll tell you, it's a few years ago, we were playing, and there's a hallway in the locker room at the old gym where we used to play. So after the game, the athletic director at that time came by and says, I heard you all the way out in the hallway. And I kind of gave him that look like, oh my goodness, is this a bad conversation or is it a good conversation? He said, I just walked away because you had to say what you had to say. So
I actually have a former player who played for Bobby Knight and has a story about him breaking his finger on his chest while he was like yelling at him, and he hits him with his finger and he breaks his finger, and the kid's like, oh my God, coach, your finger. And then he got mad at him for him breaking it. It's an incredible story. I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. The intensity is unparalleled for sure. Not a small gentleman by any means. So when you are talking about implementing change in game, etc., you did mention, in addition to the defensive changes, the substitution.
Mm-hmm.
With subbing, would you say that the majority of your game is scripted, or the majority of your game is by feel, by touch, as to what's kind of going on in the game there?
The majority is by feel and what's going on. What do we think we need to change? What we can do different? Right. The only thing that we did that was scripted was we had a lot of success with Shaq coming off the bench. So after a few games in, we started bringing him off the bench, which was very successful the year before. when he finished up the season coming off the bench. And then that was something he was comfortable with. The kid doesn't have an ego. He just wants to do whatever's going to put him in the best situation, be successful. So coach talked to him, hey, Shaq, you're going to come off the bench, watch what's going on, watch the flow of the game, see what's going on. When you come in ready to play. Plus to help keep him out of foul trouble. So that may have been the only thing that was scripted as far as Shaq goes. Everything else was based on what's going on during the game. What do we identify that we might want to change? So, and then we make those changes on the fly or at a timeout.
Talk a little bit about the pace of play that you would like to play at. And I think this kind of ties in, I ask it a lot too, offensive rebounding, how many you want to send to the glass, does that change per game, etc.?
Typically, we like to play up tempo. We want to get out and run. We want to get in transition. We want the game in the 80s. Caldwell also was a team that plays that way. Except the first game we played them, they did that better than we did. They scored 95 and we scored, I think, 63. The second game, even though we wanted to run and wanted the game to be high scoring, they did a better job of trying to slow it down. They did like a little token press just to get in, slow us down, try to prevent us from running. It's kind of interesting that two teams that like to run and want to score a lot of points.
Right.
The score was, in the 60s. So, which is unusual, but we typically like to get out and run, attack guys in transition, try to get easy buckets. We like to try to, we like to steal buckets, steal points here and there with transition, with offensive rebounding, like you said, with out of bounds plays. So we try to steal buckets in those situations. Typically, we send 3 guys to the boards. Our 4 and 5 are really good offensive rebounders. Shaq, Jarian Hancock, Devin Bristow, Petrie, our other guard. Those guys are really good offensive rebounder and pretty aggressive, especially Shaq and Jarian. Those guys are very good offensive rebounders. So, and usually go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, I love it. I'm curious. I got a clip about defensive transition. I'm curious to sort of be talked through that, but I'll wait till the film part for that.
Mm-hmm.
Last one that I have sort of before we move into a little bit of film and what you see from the game is, do you do anything that's sort of like a post-game report or a post-game evaluation, both of how your team played, but also how your scout correlates to what you did output or execution wise? Do you do anything where you guys kind of follow up? Because you mentioned you keep lots of clips over several years because, a lot of coaches don't change their style. Do you do anything that sort of evaluates your own and, hey, maybe we should throw in something in there, or we were a little bit off, etc.?
I think the typical discussion with the coaches when we huddle up after the game, before we address the players, and then also after the players leave, we typically say, did we do this? Or were we able to do this? Did this guy, like for example, did Shaq get enough touches?
Right.
Did Shaq crash the board? Did he meet his averages?
Right.
Did he get the 4 offensive rebounds? Did he get the 12 rebounds total? Did he get, was he in the 20s? Because we know when Shaq scores a lot, we're a much better team. Then we kind of do that for, did Phil, which is Phil Burrell opponent, did Phil get downhill? How many times did he attack the basket? Did he make them have to help? So we will look at that. It's interesting because we don't document that as far from a stat point of view, as other than looking at the basic stat report. We don't bring that together in writing, which something we probably need to look at more. So, but we do verbalize it, talk to each other, kind of go back and forth with each other about, did we do what we thought we should do? Did we do what we were planning on doing? Did we take away from them what we wanted to take away?
Right.
And then we kind of evaluate it from that point of view. So.
Love it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. While that may or may not happen, Tiger, I'm just going to set up the film here. As I mentioned to you previously, I got 11 clips from the game, all fairly easy stuff. We're not going to give away too many of your secrets type deal. I'll play each clip 2 or 3 times. First time, we'll just let it play through. Second time, I'll sort of fumble through a description for anybody who may be listening to the podcast and not watching it on YouTube. And then the third time, just all you know, let me know what you see, let me know what you like, don't like, would you run it again, etc. This is just their first play of the game. So they bring the ball offensive right slot, reverse it to the other side, and then reverse it again and get into their cross screen action underneath. They don't get anything out of that. And then it comes up to a top ball screen later on in the possession. Second side, one more, and then they drive attack and get blocked. So, I mean, pretty good defensive possession, I would say. What do you think they're trying to establish? How do you feel you played it? Do you have the set? Any of those fun things there?
Um, what they get into, that's the typical what we call the Carolina break. As you know, the big kid runs to the rim, wings are deep. When they reversed it back through the top to swing to the opposite side, you'll see the original ball side wing back screen for the four into the post. And then
Right,
that's where they get into that cross screen. So they do that pretty much every time on transition if they don't get a kick ahead three.
right,
So so again, it's just defending the screens, guarding the action away from the ball. And as you'll see on the backside, when they after the ball screen, they had three guys lined up on the backside waiting for the kick out. Then it was just a matter
yeah.
of closing out, getting to the shooters, taking away the three, and just guarding them from there. But that's some of the action they start with whenever they're in transition. That's very typical of how they attack you.
Well, I love the help and the rotations. You can very clearly see your guys communicating all the way through. Maybe second nature to you, but talk to me a little bit about defending this cross screen. What are sort of your teaching points that you're telling your guys underneath on the cross screen? Obviously, you end up switching here,
Yeah.
but what are you guys trying to do? What's the teaching point?
Uh, big screens, we're going to typically try to switch it. We want our guys front in the post, then in the passing lane.
Right,
So if they execute it, they should be able to switch with the guy ball side big staying in the passing lane. So you take that guy to the screen, switch. I'm a physical guy. My direction is usually make contact, put a
right.
forearm in their chest, no straight line cuts, and that means bumping the cutters, knocking them off their line. So if they're doing that, then they're doing a pretty good job. Um, Sometimes our guys are not as physical as I would like for them to be, but that's kind of the goal.
And I'm assuming because you're switching everything, basically, the combination of the cross screen into this would typically be a back screen, but they just miss it and go straight into the ball screen action. We're not
Mm-hmm.
worried about the matchup that would create on this ball screen here because we're capable of switching all the way through.
Yeah, and plus, if you look at our two guys on the backside, we're playing the center court line. So if the
Yep.
ball's on the strong side, weak side should have at least one. Hopefully, we teach them 2 feet in the paint, but we know by the time game times come, it may be 1 foot in the paint. So we want backside with 2 feet in the paint, ready to help, ready to collapse. But then, as you can see, the closeout with Caldwell, you have to close out and get to the shooters as soon as possible. So
And then I got one more for you. So on the drive, we get to here, and here is our kick to the second side. So you've got I got my little annotate. You got your take two guy taking the first closeout, whichever it is there type deal. Which
yes,
of these two, the beaten ball defender or the help guy, do you typically teach to take the second closeout?
the guy on the backside, the guy in the red circle, his
Yep.
first responsibility is help the helper. So he's going to
Okay.
drop to the baseline, make sure that drift pass don't occur across the baseline, and then he has whatever the kick out may be. And then it's a scramble situation from that point of view. Then everybody else is scrambling out and reacting to whoever takes the ball. So if that guy closes out, communicates, and that's not his original man, he should be communicating, I got the ball, get my man, and then matchups from there. But that backside guy, he's original is help the helper, take away the drift pass, close out to the first kick out, and then everybody else adjusts to that. And then it's a scramble situation as far as closeouts.
And in that scramble, the low guy number one or the beaten ball defender number 30, you guys don't have like it's always one of these two going. It's really just whoever's closest and can scramble to get there fastest.
Yes, yeah, that's the goal. Whoever can get there fastest. So we don't, because what happened is early on, some of our guys get so locked into this is my guy
Right.
that they guard their guy but don't guard the ball, and the ball is
Right.
completely open. So to avoid that is always guard the ball, and then everyone else adjusts from there. So because guys that get locked into, well, that's not my guy, and you don't have a guy. Guard the ball first, then adjust from there.
Gotcha. The next one is you guys score. They put it in kind of coffin corner, and you just kind of get a quick trap off of the inbounder. They throw it away. The reason I put this clip in is it does tie into the next one where we get into your diamond press a little bit. But it's just two guys doing something here to put a little pressure on. It doesn't look like to me that this is a call or that you guys were actually set up in a full court press at this point. Talk to me a little bit about the quick trap off of the inbounds. Am I correct? Is this not a call? Is this just good players making a good play? Or did two other players forget to sort of be in the press?
Unfortunately, two other guys forgot their responsibility.
Okay.
Usually, if we go diamond press, our 4 guy, which is 30 or 35, one of those guys, typically 30 because he's just long and really athletic, he'll be on the ball.
Right.
What you will see is the backside guard runs away. That guy should have been going to the middle because we want to take away high middle,
right,
not low middle. That guy he failed his responsibility. He didn't take away the high middle. As you can see, number 5, who's almost on the logo, he should have been coming to the sideline to take away that pass up the sideline. The only pass that should have been allowed would be behind, back to the basket, back, going backwards, go back below the basket, low middle, so to speak. So, but
So
yeah, two guys didn't take care of the responsibility.
That, of course, you do get the turnover out of it. That, of course, would tie into, a little bit later in the game. You get basically into your diamond, sort of shows everything here. And then my question here would be, are you pressing to steal the ball? Are you pressing to get deflections and slow them up? Or are you pressing just to kind of kill time type deal?
We want to create offense. With our press, we want to create offense. We want to get easy buckets. We want to get into unbalanced attacks where we 3-on-2, 2-on-1, 4-on-2. We want to create unbalanced attack. The thing about guard is Caldwell, they're so used to people trying to sprint to get back because they're so aggressive in their transition. It caught them off balance that we trapped them because they're normally used to guys just sprinting to get back. And so by pressing them, kind of threw them off, and I think it shocked them a little bit, and that's led to that quick turnover, even though 2 guys were out of position.
Right.
But every time we trap, we're trying to get turnovers. We're trying to create easy buckets. We're trying to steal some baskets in that situation. So
now talk to me a little bit about in the half after pressing, when they step over, what are your teaching tools? Like, it looks like to me you're manning up, and it looks like it's probably closest man. But that being said, what are you saying? How are you teaching your guys to communicate? How effective are they at it? And from that point, playing with fewer seconds on the clock, are there any sort of guidelines like, hey, don't foul, shoot the gaps, be aggressive?
Typically, if the ball gets over our head, we're trying to sprint back, and we're trying to match up as soon as possible. Our only matchup into getting back from pressuring is hopefully our 4s and 5s are guarding 4s and 5s, and then we'll match up from there. That's what we're hoping to get. But if they kick it to the corner and our 5 has to close out to the corner, his responsibility is stay there until we can find a good time to switch back to get him on a more appropriate matchup. And basically, it's a scramble. You're trying to match up. You're trying to control the ball. You're trying to get to the ball, and then obviously identify the shooters and get to the shooters as they continue to move the ball and get to where they got to go. But our transition defense starts with protect the rim, stop the ball, take the first pass. Everything else is in help. So if we can get to those things on our transition D or our transition from pressure then we feel like we're doing a good job. But those are our first few rules as far as our transition defense. And
Can you say those rules for me one more time, please?
oh, well, one I just, because I used to teach my little kids when I teach AAU doing something is protect the house, which is obviously protecting the paint, taking away the rim. We say, hey, you don't leave the house and leave the front door open, then don't give up lanes and drive to the basket out here.
Right.
So protect the paint, stop the ball, take the first pass. So then by that time, who's ever transitioning and behind the ball, they're retreating to the weak side. They're retreating to help. So if we can stop the ball from going straight to the rim, protect that first pass to a rim, because they're going to pick a side, right? So once they pick that side, hopefully our guys at that time is retreating to help, and then we have backside help. So always guard the ball, but it starts out with guarding the paint, then the ball.
So our next clip is a defensive transition one, where I would say you probably didn't execute well in terms of those concepts. They end down, they attack down the offensive left side of the floor. They get middle, second side, one more, knock down, misses the shot, but it's pretty.
As you can see right here in this clip, so you can see you can see the arc in the middle. They do not have a guy rim running, which we would have gave up a layup on that situation if they would have. But our responsibility, those guys should have been at that arc in the middle of the paint, protecting the rim first and then coming out. But as you can see, no one ran to the rim from our team as defense transition. And because their big guys stopped short also, he didn't make it all the way to the rim.
So with this level of contest and the overall defensive transition, would you guys be happy with the way that you played this? I mean, obviously they missed, so we're not married to the result, but if not, how are you implementing change in game on the fly?
Yeah, normally we're going to bring it to their attention to talk about transition responsibilities. And I'm glad you said that we're not married to the outcome, because one thing that I typically tell my guys is I'm not going to celebrate that guy missing, even though because you guarded him incorrectly. So it's the process that's important. So even if you run to the rim and there's no one there, you still run to the rim. So it's all about the process, and are they doing things the correct way, the way we taught them to do it? If they miss or as they make, we'll live with it. But are you doing the process right? Are you doing the things we taught you correctly? So,
this one was one of their elevator actions, which is interesting because it ties into kind of an action they use a lot later where they're coming up the middle, but they put a pin screen together. I'm wondering if this is one that you had and how you guys would typically guard the elevator type action. For anybody who's listening, doesn't work out as a great set for them overall, but basically we dribble push to the offensive right side. There's an elevator cut up through the middle, and then they actually bring somebody out to the strong side corner who they one more it to, and then he gets in trouble when he baseline attacks and throws it away. So talk to me about the elevator action. Is it one that you would typically see? Were you prepared for it? How do you think you played it?
We didn't prepare for it as much. We talked about that because we call that America's play. Dribble to the wing. It's a cross screen. They're bringing a guy block off that screen. Then the guy that sets the screen is coming up through the elevator. A lot of times how most people run that, either from a sideline out of bounds or they run it in transition. Our guy we want that guy to chase, depends on the screen. Okay, so the cross screen action, are we switching it? And if we're switching it, the problem is the guy that switched is behind that guy. But if we don't switch, we want that guy to come ball side of the screen and then shoot the gap. So we typically don't chase a guy off a screen or a double screen unless he's coming to the ball. But if he's going up to the top, we would like for him to come ball side of the screen and try to jump in the passing lane. So that guy should be coming up. He should be coming to the ball side of that big on this side of the elevator, as opposed to trying to go through the elevator with him. Typically is what we like to do. But
have I got that
he should be coming to blue line, which would be ball side of that screen.
And if I'm not mistaken, you were speaking about before the cross screen happening in there that is
Mhm.
bringing this player in this direction
Yeah,
and is now allowing the gentleman who's coming off the elevator to be going in that direction type deal.
yeah, that it's a screen to screener action with the
Right.
coming through the elevator. So the cross screen is going to force you. They're going to see how you guard it. Are you switching it, and how you guarding that cross screen? Like again, if you switch it, the defender is on the wrong side of that guy coming off the elevator. So right here, this guy is as this guy's coming up, he's trying to chase him, which if they close the elevator correctly, that guy should be wide open. So, but he
Right.
should be trying to come out the side. So, plus our bigs are too close. They're not in the passing lane. They're not to the help side, and giving that guy a pathway to come ball side of that screen. So,
What I think I find interesting about it actually is that your player does go to the outside, but he goes to the outside on the other side to try and get
mhm,
around. I don't think I saw that the first time I went through.
yeah, which is definitely not what we wanted to do.
No,
But
that makes that close out a little bit longer.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. So
Because again, this team is a team that's going to run the plays that they're going to run are going to be 4-3, not necessarily for the drive. And if they do drive, it's for the kick out. So that's
right.
one thing to keep that in mind when playing Caldwell and guarding them is their first option is they want to shoot the three. You know.
Well, I've always found elevator or pinch sense interesting for shooting teams because shooting teams need space. And I
Mm-hmm.
find a lot of the time that if you don't actually get success with the pinch screen, you end up having pretty poor spacing a lot of the time because guys don't really know where to empty or exit out to. So
Yeah. And see how the big kid 32, he typically rolls to the middle. See how he after he came out of the elevator, he rolled right to the front of the rim,
yeah,
which is normally what he does. That's his role. He either runs to the front of the rim or he's going to roll to the front of the rim. Um, and then again in the first game, that kid also hit 3 threes. So you got to guard that guy rolling to the rim. But hopefully, if they're creating good space and they want that guy rolling to the rim, they 4 will pop, which is normally. I think that kid was a D1 transfer. He's about 6'8". He's pretty much a big guard.
right.
So he would pop. The big kid will roll to the rim, and then they will space out from there. Is what they're trying to get. Whether they get there or not, it's different, but that's what they're trying to get.
It's interesting to me. I went to a clinic, basketball immersion one on the weekend. I was down at the Final Four, as you know, and
Mm-hmm.
Chris Oliver said, because he had the two teams on the court, they had kids demonstrating, and he goes to the kids, if you ever tune out and your coach calls on you, the answer offensively is always space. Space is always what you need offensively, and like I said, with pinch sets, if they don't run it properly, you guys end up being at the advantage, in my opinion, because the spacing gets put together type deal.
Exactly. If you watch this, see the kid at the top of the key, Retton, in the beginning of that play after the elevator, you'll see him back up from the 3-point line to get space in there.
Right.
So and then the backside guys should have drifted down to kind of where the
Yeah.
referee is standing.
Yeah.
So they were trying to get there, but they didn't quite make it to their spots.
Love it.
But,
This was
they are
one that I
ready to
really.
shoot.
Sorry, Tiger. This
No,
was
I
one
would just
that
say they
really,
were ready to shoot. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, you good. It's just a lag in Zoom sometimes. We end up over talking each other. I apologize. This one was one I really liked. It was one of the few clips that I found where they went to a zone, and I admired how quickly you seamlessly went into your zone offense. So they show a bit of a 2-3. It's kind of out of nowhere. We're in the second half, and you guys you go into what is clear to me is kind of a quick hitter where you're like 1-3-1 offensively, and your wing curls and brings that guy up, and your dunker spot changes side from weak side to strong side. We get what looks like is going to be a ball screen from up top, but then we reverse it back a couple times and then get back into the ball screen there, get second side, and get an open shot from the offensive right slot. Talk to me about this quick hitter. Talk to me about the recognition of your guys that they're playing zone, and then talk to me about how you feel you executed with this.
Yeah. So our play and typically with the with our transition, we run 5 to the rim, 4 is trailing, and obviously the guard should be spacing out wide. So we run that whether it's offense, whether it's zone or man. That's where those guys should be running to. The recognition comes in. We probably call strong right away, where that is the dribble out into a ball screen. But we switched the 4-man, which is 35. He's like 6'7", the white kid. He has been a more consistent 3-point shooter than the kid Shaman with the white tights on. So we put Shaman at the free throw line so that he can dribble penetrate. We spaced Skylar out because he was at that time he was shooting the 3 much better. So that was an adjustment. Was Skylar would typically be at the free throw line, but instead we switched it and put Shaman at the free throw line. Devin, the big kid in the fluorescent green shoes, he went to what you call the dunker spot. He goes low. So they made that quick spot. So Skylar being a wing, he sets the ball screen. The action is supposed to be to continue coming left and attack the low guy on the zone so that we can drop it off to the big. But what happened is they didn't reverse the ball. They went back same side and they should have attacked. So by setting the ball screen, you leave that the bottom low guy vulnerable. The dribbler is supposed to attack him off the dribble with the idea of dropping it off to the big with the finish. If they run it correctly, that's what should happen.
All those adjustments were made on the fly, or they were made earlier in like an ATO type situation? Because everything
the Gaston game kind of created that adjustment with putting the guard at the free throw line. Shaman, the kid in the tights, he's a kid as I had already signed to go Division I. He wasn't shooting the ball well, but he is absolutely incredible off the dribble. And so that's why we made the switch to put him at the free throw line, put Skylar, the big shooter, on the perimeter, and then try to take advantage that way. So Shaman could wheel and deal from the free throw line, and then Skylar spotting up and also being able to offensive rebound. You got a big guy out there crashing the boards from the perimeter. So that was the adjustment made because of the Gaston game right before then. Gaston played a lot of zone, and we were struggling with how to scoring against the zone because of the way they played it. So that was one of the adjustments we made, and it carried it over into the Caldwell game.
Love it. This is it's interesting because you called the elevator set America's Play. A lot of people up here call flex America's Play.
Okay.
This is, what you were talking about, same idea as the Carolina break, where then they get into the cross screen, and it's not down screen here. It's actually cross screen and back screen, it looks like. And they throw it in, they get a nice little soft touch off of it. Talk to me about the way that you play this. Talk to me about how you would like to do it differently at all. For anybody who's listening, basically the ball advances offensive left side of the floor. You get a reversal through the point, a reversal to the other slot. While that happens, you get your cross screen, bringing their 5-man to the strong side block. And then they set a back screen at the help side elbow. And then he pops after that, and they throw it in. It kind of messes with where your help can come from because of that back screen action and the fact that the help side guard is still above the free throw line. So talk to me about how you feel you guys did and what you would do different, if anything.
All right. I'm seeing how they run it through. Go ahead and run it. Let me see it. Did it pause?
Yeah, I can pause it anywhere you want.
No, I'm saying, yeah, go ahead and run it through. Let it run.
Let me know if it's not smooth too, Tiger. Sorry.
It hasn't. It's he's in the backcourt pushing the ball. It's not hasn't moved.
Oh, it's not moving for you?
Yeah, it's not moving for you. Okay, now it is. Okay.
Right. So offensive left slot, reverse. Cross screen is happening underneath, back screen happening. and then they just throw it in. You guys are fronting. They throw it to his left shoulder. He makes a great catch and a good finish.
Mhm. Okay. Again, the our guy that's guarding the big is backing up. He should be trying to get the front side, trying to get the top side and front that guy. Um, if they was able to throw it over the top, that means the backside guy was not there to help like it should have been.
Right.
So because we try to help on any lob over the top for the bigs. Starts with, are we fronting correctly, and do the backside guys have a foot in the paint to be able to help? If those things aren't happening, then that's going to cause us problems.
So within your principles, let me ask you. Here is your cross screen happening. I know there might be a bit of a lag. Sorry. At the same
Yeah.
time, let me sort of draw up here. This is the back screen that's happening. You can see my drawing, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is the man guarding the wing on the opposite side, the help side. Which of these two defenders here, this gentleman and this gentleman, then become your help on the lob? Because they as this advances, they bring this gentleman down.
Yeah.
So
So
now
the first guy that you circled was in the correct position,
right.
to be in help. It looks like they made a switch, so he should have stayed in help and should have taken another step towards the ball, towards the middle of the paint at that time. Now 30 should be in the help because he was guarding the 4-man that came down off the screen.
Right.
So 30 should be the help guy. Petrie, the guy that has a foot in the paint, he should become the helper guy, which would allow number 30 to fully commit to helping.
And then the gentleman that would basically be cut at that point would be this gentleman on the other side of the floor.
Yeah, that's the guy we're going to let go. So that guy usually should space down to the corner, or he'll stay right there. So on his part, he didn't move. We would have thought that guy would have spaced to the corner for the kick out 3. But because there was not good help on the pass over the top, the big just has a layup.
Yeah.
But that's one thing you have to worry about.
The big did his work down there, and
exactly, yeah.
He really prevented the step around, like you said, right? 35 had a tough time getting around on that front.
Yeah. So because it doesn't look, it almost looks like a flex, but again, that's still part of the Carolina break. The ball goes up the wing, reverses it through the 4, wings, up screens for the 4 to the paint, and then cross screen big to big. So yeah, they still get into that mode, that action. And then just like Carolina, there's a few variations off of it, but that's still the basis of what they're trying to do out of transition. As you can see, this late in the game, their guards aren't spacing all the way to the corner like they probably did early in the game. So kids tend to rise up the court, from the deep corner. They're more free throw line extended as opposed to being lower and better spacing. So
do you think that is fatigue creeping in at that point, or do you think that is purposeful to try and make the help come from farther away?
I think a little bit of both. I think it's more fatigue because guys aren't sprinting to the corners like they do early on. And then the advantage for the big is the help is higher and less likely to get there.
Right.
So it helps the big in that situation. But the spacing wise, it hurts them because the guards didn't get to the corner, didn't get to the deep corner.
This one is late in the game. One of the first times they tried to press you, which I thought was borderline laughable at this point in terms of the execution of their press. But they put it in, coffin corner. You guys swing immediately. It looks like a 1-2-1-1 probably is what they're in. And you guys are seamless into your press break and getting the ball up the floor, looking diagonal, avoiding traps, and then you go and execute a bit of a half-court offense here. So we sort of slow it down, and we go into the ball in the center of the floor and hand off to the wing, and another handoff to the opposite side, and we shoot the long 2 here. Not a bad shot, not the best one we could get, but talk to me about breaking their press. Obviously you probably practice against press more than they do because you guys press. So what are your concepts of your press break? And then what are you trying to do when you get over in the half court?
Um, so what we would like to do is when our two guards split at the front of the break, at the front of the press, um, we want the guy taking the ball out of bounds to just step in. So you want to be ball side below the ball, on the strong side of the ball,
Right.
because we want the guy, in case there's a steal, we want a guy between the ball and the basket if there's a steal.
Right.
Backside guys should be trying to get to the middle so that we can try to attack and go from there. So that's the spacing that we want. We want
Right.
guy catches on the wing, guy taking it out, just steps in, backside guy that split. Now you're attacking the middle, trying to get to the middle. If we can hit that guy sprinting to the middle, great. If not, we reverse it back through the guy that stepped in. Then the guy in the middle sprint sideline to create space and try to see if we can get it to that guy. So, but the goal is to get it to the middle, get an uneven attack, and then try to get a 3-on-2 or 4-on-2 and attack whoever they have back. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. So.
What about running offense in the half court when you beat a press, but then don't get the uneven attack? Do you guys have any sort of sets that you go to, or are you just into your play after play penetration concepts type deal?
Usually if a team stops us in transition, we usually go to a set play. We use majority of our plays are quick hitters. We have maybe one continuity play that we would run, but the majority of our plays are quick hitters. We're trying to move the ball, attack, or even get the ball inside to Shaq and just go from there. So if this is a dribble handoff, it's probably a 1-4 flat. Attack, get a paint touch, handoff. That guy's coming over top. He's trying to get a paint touch. Opposite guard, he's coming up for a handoff. But we're trying to get a paint touch. See, Phil did not get a paint touch. That handoff is outside of 3. He should have been more aggressive in trying to get to the paint to force them to adjust. But it goes to the handoff. If the big is setting the screen, it's a play what we call pop, which is dribble handoff into a ball screen. The big pops for the 3. The other guard spaces to the corner. The guy getting the handoff coming off the ball screen, he's trying to get to the middle, trying to get a paint touch. And then number 1 is spacing deep to the 3. And then the big is just sitting there for either a dump off or offensive rebound.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. Do you guys have any sort of shot selection table? Like some coaches that I've had on here don't love the idea of the long 2. You've definitely mentioned paint touches and 3s a lot in here. This shot, it is deeper in the shot clock. Are you okay with it? Do you have a conversation with him about, we could get that anytime? What's sort of your team philosophy on that kind of shot in particular?
We don't want contested shots, whether it be 2s or 3s. If there's a guy open, we want that next pass to be made. Right. Petrie, number 1, is better off the dribble, attacking downhill, getting to the paint. I prefer him not shoot as many jump shots, but he seems to think he's a jump shooter. So we really like when he's attacking, trying to get to the paint. So at that point, he should have been trying to attack one of those defenders to either his right or his left to make him commit for the 2 shooters that are spaced out. So you got number 5 over here that's spaced out, and then you got the other kid on the other side spaced out. A good offensive possession would be to drive and attack one of those help defenders and then kick out, make them commit to helping, and then kick for the open 3. As you'll see also, Shaq in the middle is trying to get position and post up. So he's also should be giving Shaq a look. But it's kind of getting deep into the shot clock at this time. I think it's at 7 seconds. So he's probably looking to try to get a shot up before the shot clock goes off. So yeah. So I think that's more what happened at that point right there.
What I saw. Yeah, 7, 6, 5, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna go back one clip because Matt had a question in there that I didn't see, but basically we were talking about that over the top lob and then the guards not getting all the way to the corner. And then we discussed a little bit about maybe that's fatigue, maybe that's the help side defender moving him higher. Mac asks,
Mhm.
which is easier to guard in your opinion, the deep corner or the free throw line extended?
In my opinion, the free throw line extended. Um, it's a closer slide. It's an easier slide. Um, if you got a guy in the deep corner and then a guy on the high wing, it creates better spacing at that point. So, because if you do kick it to the three, somebody's closing out. That guy has room to drive over the
Right.
top side and to make a play. But if that guy, if there's no one in the corner and his free throw line extended, then it's just a one-on-one man-to-man guard. So um, you're just trying to keep that guy out of the paint from that point. And then that's where people are going to say either don't let them come middle, force some baseline, whatever their philosophy may be at that point. But I think it's more difficult to guard guys if they space to the deep corner than if they just stop running at the free throw line extended. Just in my opinion.
Gotcha. We'll go. I got 3 clips left. Tiger, you good?
Yep, we good.
Yeah. All right. So this one, my note was defending the middle, and this has to do same idea as the elevator set. I have actually only really seen this offense one other time. A team in Ontario on the women's side runs this almost all the time. Western, when they had Brian Cheng as their head coach. And basically, all it is cutters coming up the center. So it's almost like a box set alignment. And then your cutter comes up the middle towards the wing, kind of giving them an advantage. Yeah, like there's not much on this clip. Basically, he just rips and goes and hits kind of a hard mid-range shot. But do you have this sort of scouted? What's the plan of being able to guard this? It kind of makes it difficult to stay in front of the man as he's ripping and going to the outside.
Yeah. It's what we call it. It's a half Iverson cut
A
as
half
opposed to
Iverson,
starting.
I like it. Yeah,
Yeah. Instead of going from the opposite wing and going off the 2 screens, it's a half. He comes up through the middle. He Iverson cuts off that guy and trying to rip and go baseline side. Sometimes you will see the big follow and screen back to the middle to give a ball screen back to the middle. But
right.
usually it's a Iverson cut, rip, drive baseline, and attack from that point of view. So it's kind of a half Iverson. As you'll see, they'll set up in a box set to come up the middle. And basically, is either guy can go either way. That point guard can go either way because both guys are ready to do the same thing. So he comes up, comes out to half Iverson, rips, try to get baseline side. More one of their ISO type situations.
Do you have anything in place to be able to guard it better or force it in a certain direction, or is it just basically
You
get
just try
there?
to let them know it's coming. You just got to
Yeah,
get there. Yeah,
get there and do your job, man.
yeah. Because the unique thing is you don't want the big to overcommit to helping, because if they jump out to try to help that guy, the big should go straight to the rim. If your big overcommits to help, big should be playing defense from the inside out, so
Right.
they should be on the inside of the free throw line. Again, I'm physical. If a big see that guy coming, put a forearm in his chest, step in front of him, bump him off his line if we have time, if they can. But a lot of times that guy comes up, he's popping out that half Iverson and trying to rip it and go baseline side.
Love it. Defending, you guys are up 3. There's 40 seconds left. They come out with a full court ATO basically here. They curl 1, 2. They curl 2 going away from the ball. They inbound and give it back. He comes downhill and fakes the handoff and just basically posts and makes a layup, like a Barkley into the post. Talk to me about like what you guys were trying to do being up 3 here with about 40 seconds left in the game. What are your words of encouragement, instruction to them to be able to maintain the lead?
We were trying to switch everything, but what happened is the guy guarding the inbounder should have been a little bit closer. He should have been further up. And then the kid in the fluorescent green,
Yeah,
again, he let their big catch the ball way too easy.
right.
And so we're playing way more conservative right there than we should have been. We should have had more pressure on them. But those guys let that exchange happen, let that guy get a full head of steam coming downhill. Not really the way we wanted to guard it. So I'm not sure what happened why our point guard wasn't up to guard that guy out of bounds. So
this is also a pretty difficult shot. I mean, he's out of control. He does a 180
mhm.
and puts it
Yeah.
in. So, like, kudos to him.
Yeah,
And
then
then
we're trying to be solid. Just be solid, contest, don't foul,
right.
limit them to one shot, make sure we get the rebound. So that's the goal.
And then similar, I would assume the instruction is similar here. Basically, there's a couple possessions of nothing, and then they have the ball. You guys are up one still. There's about 10 seconds left in the game, a little bit under, and it's another full court situation.
Yeah.
Talk to me
So,
about what. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I'm saying we took number 30, Jarian, who's usually on the ball in our diamond press, backed him up to double the point guard and make it a little bit more difficult for that guy to catch. And then Jarian would help as much as he can until the guy taking the ball out of bounds gets up and be a threat that he would have to go back to his man. So we want to deny, make it hard for him to catch. And then the guy that should have been guarding the ball out of bounds, stay close enough to help to change that guy, make that guy change direction. Defensively, one of our goals in the backcourt is to make the ball handler change directions as many times as possible.
Right.
So, and then on the other side of that, we try to teach our guys, give them one move and go by them. Don't mess around with it. So we're trying to say, make them change direction multiple times. Then we're on offense, one move, go by them. So that's a kind of the goal. So Jarian, number 30, his responsibility is to help deny and then help change direction, make sure that guy don't get a full run out if he gets a blow by. So
I thought this was really great on ball defense here. I mean, kept his hands up. He got him to turn in the backcourt. He stayed with him 90 feet basically, and then gets the clean contest / block and recovers the rebound before it goes out of bounds. That's it. That's the game. You guys won it. I thought excellent example of on ball defense late game. So my hat goes off to that gentleman, and obviously congratulations on the W. But in terms of instruction on ball, I think you've covered everything that's there. That was just a great job overall.
Yeah. Phil is number 3. He was a D2 transfer. So the guy came in with experience. He played at Millbrook in Raleigh, which is a very, very good high school team. So he's definitely the high IQ, smart guy on the team, on the floor when he's out there. He's also a high energy guy. He plays with a lot of emotion. So his responsibility was to guard that guy, contest, and he really stepped up. His experience, and he played with a lot of experience. He played with a lot of emotions during those last few plays on those possessions.
Love it. Always nice to come away with a win on any one of these. I really enjoyed the experience for sure, and it's been great being able to pick your brain. I want to take a second and just say thank you, first off, for your time in doing this today, but for the fellowship over the past years, just being able to listen, learn from, share in your experience at Brunswick. It's been a real joy to follow along. I really appreciate it. And to all the gentlemen that hop on and listen, thank you as well. Appreciate you guys. Tiger, thanks so much, man.
And thank you for having me, man. One thing I've learned is that Walter and I have been together for such a long time. Having the opportunity to talk to other coaches, watch film, go to clinics has continued to help me learn and grow as a coach. But like you said, the Zooms and talking to these guys and getting information and knowledge from so many different points of view just has been tremendous over the last couple of years. So I appreciate you guys and appreciate you for what you do and for bringing this up and giving me the opportunity to be here, but also the opportunity to learn from other guys also.
My pleasure. I'm going to stop the recording there. Thanks to all who listen. I hope you continue to find value. We'll be back next week. Look forward to it. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.